Okay then, guys. Hopefully everyone's logged in. So I think we'll kick off. So today we're going to be talking about the mobile workforce working remotely and how that can be made a little easier using the DocuWare solutions. So welcome to everybody. Thank you very much for taking the time today. Hopefully everyone's not going too stir crazy in home, and hopefully everybody's fit and well where you are. So the first thing we're going to talk about as we come in today then is the way things have changed. And I think it's fair to say that as a world, we've jumped into a new normal. The days of what we thought we knew and had been doing for the last God knows how many years have now changed. Employees are starting to work from home more and more, and that's been forced upon us. And for many businesses, we're just not ready for it. Our systems and the ways of working have been designed around people being together in an office, and actually being now working from home. I think we're starting to see some of the cracks appear in businesses that just weren't set up for that way of working. But don't worry, because DocuWare can absolutely help. So the IT stack has changed. Many of the old VPNs and things like that, they're set up for a handful of people to use rather than the whole workforce. But again, DocuWare can support you through this process. So a really positive message for all your customers out there. Because the most important thing above anything else is that the business sticks to its goals, and actually we still keep rowing in the same direction and working together as a team to ensure that we can meet our goals. So some of the questions that we're now having, and hopefully some of these will resonate with you. I know certainly for many of them, I'm getting asked them more regularly than ever before, and some of them I've probably never been asked before. But two of the ones that kind of really stood out for me as we were putting this together was, how do we escape the slowness of the VPN? Well, it's right to say, and I think VPNs in many cases for many businesses, they were designed around a handful of people, maybe half a dozen people who happen to work remotely. For everybody else, actually, they do work in the office, and their IT systems have been designed that way. So suddenly, throwing everybody into a situation where they're working remotely across VPNs, suddenly we're really seeing how slow those VPNs can be, and actually that's having a real negative effect on businesses. So the idea of DocuWare is that we can support you through these through these slow periods by removing the VPN in some cases entirely. But we'll go into a little bit of detail on how we can do that. And I think the second one that really kind of resonated with me was, how do I manage information better when folders, better than folders in my emails? Well, actually, I think that's true across the board. It's not just about emails. Really, how do I manage my documentation, my information, my emails, all the other mediums that we have? How do we manage them in a way that actually everybody can access them as if we were all sat in the same room again? No longer can I just shout across the office, it's like, have you got this piece of information? Actually, that's not as easy as it once was. So being able to really kind of use a system that centralizes functionality and allows the workforce the ability to be able to work as if they were sat next to each other, albeit from remote locations, really, really important. So there's 3 steps to success with DocuWare, and these are the 3 steps that we're going to talk about. So we're going to firstly centralize everybody's information. We bring all the information into one place, a central store with everybody be able to access the information that they have the right to see at the right time. Really, really important. And when you think, actually, that just goes back to how we've always worked. This is now just giving people the ability to be able to do it remotely and on the fly. So secondly, we start to think about the workflows. And in some cases, actually within businesses, these workflows have always been there. They've just actually been manual. So we've gone from a stage of having to manually take a piece of paper from one desk to another to actually being in a situation where we're remote workers, and now we need to digitally send that piece of paper between desks. And just being able to structure those workflows and tailor them to every business's specific needs, that's where DocuWare really comes into its own. We really have the power to be able to support businesses through that. And then finally, probably the bane of every IT manager's life at the moment, security. We need to be able to ensure that no matter where you are on the planet, no matter how you're working, actually you're able to do it with the security standards and the compliance standards that are relevant, not just your country, but actually the standards that you set your business by. Very often we don't try and work to what the standard is. In businesses, we want to exceed that standard. We want to make a new standard. So it's important that we're able to continue doing that, even through times of remote working. So DocuWare is a feature-rich product. It's one that really brings many features into a single package, which again for businesses at this time is really powerful. So the idea of centralizing those documents into central cloud storage situations and being able to manage the security around every single endpoint through our relationship with Microsoft and the Azure platform, we're able to really manage that and ensure that everybody has the set standards that they require. We don't need to reduce our standards just because we're changing our work patterns. And I couldn't talk about that today without coming on to the way that we work remotely. So of course we can work on desktop computers, laptops, but I think more and more in today's age, I'm sure you'll all agree, that actually mobile phones, iPads, tablets, they're all coming into their own. And actually being able to set ourselves up so that when disaster happens and we have to work remotely, actually we're already set up to do so. This isn't a shock to our business. We're able to continue in the way we always were, all pulling in the same direction or rowing in the same direction as we said earlier. So the beauty of the mobile apps and the DocuWare mobile facilities is that actually we can continue to authorize documents. We can continue to workflow them. We can still add things into the information with things like Paperscan, where we're scanning documents into the system. Actually, nothing stops, and all I need is a mobile phone. Something that actually 95% of us probably have in our pockets or on our desk right now. Excuse me. So some of the practical use cases, these are the things that actually our customers really kind of come back to us with. These are the most powerful areas for DocuWare. This is how it's really affected my business in a most positive way. So of course, incoming invoices, something every single business has. Of course, we need to manage those. We don't want to be in a position where we're suddenly being on stop, or it's taking so long to process an invoice that we're picking up extra charges and fines for not paying them on time. Obviously, something that every business needs to be aware of, and it doesn't matter whether you're sat in your office in a normal working day or in the middle of a lockdown like we currently are, where I don't know if anyone else has changed, but all my direct debits have still come out. Everyone still wants paying. Of course, employee records and the way we manage customer files, I think they really kind of come together as one, really, because we're really talking about how are we structuring our people's information to be able to ensure that we're dealing with them to the highest possible standards. And again, business shouldn't stop. Just because we're out of the office, just because we are remote working, we still need to keep our standards. GDPR has not gone away, albeit it may not be at the front of our mindsets anymore. We still need to hit our standards. This leads me on to probably the biggest use case that I'm being asked for at the moment. And the use case for that is mailroom. Now, this is an area that I would say it's relatively fair to say that I haven't been asked for too much previously. Yes, I've heard it before, of course, but I haven't actually been asked for it that often. However, now it seems to be a hot topic for everybody. Mail's coming in, but nobody's in the office. How are we going to deal with this? How are we actually going to be able to get it into a central store and be able to manage it in an effective way? And again, DocuWare has the answer. Let's talk to our customers. Let's get this information across, and let's really understand, well, how can we affect your mailroom? How does your mailroom work? Is it centralized? Is it special? Is it sporadic? Do you have multiple sites? It's something that's really powerful, and a message that I'm getting coming across to me all the time. Finally, sales operations. So again, we're having to sell things in a different way. People are no longer in their office. You can't really visit them. We're having to do things remotely via remote connections, webinars, Skype, Teams, and all the other weird and wonderful features out there. But then actually when we think of, yes, okay, we've got this sale going, and now we need to remotely sign, remotely sort of complete the sale and close it off. Now, my colleague Richard, he's going to be doing a session where actually he's going to talk you through some of the digital signature processes, and he's going to show you some of those. He's going to be doing that next week. So I'm not going to steal his thunder, but please do dial into to Richard's webinar next week. So before and after, really, I guess we're thinking about the way businesses have challenges that maybe they didn't have before. Why is being remote such a challenging prospect? And how can we help those challenges? These are real key messages for any of your customers, because suddenly we've got scattered records, they're everywhere. And actually, we used to have people sat in particular desks that used to deal with this in a particular way. This has now changed. This has now changed, and we need to be able to resolve that problem and be able to deal with it. So by centralizing that information, we're really bringing everything into one key area where people with the right level of permissions can access the right level of information at every single time. We're also able to workflow that and send things around the businesses. So we've got overwhelming administrative efforts. Now, if we think of the administrative departments, actually, the admin departments are probably one of the few that have never had to work away from the office before. This has been a massive effort for some of these guys to be able to change their way of working and actually bring them into a situation where they can continue without having any effect on the business. So ready-to-use workflows are really, really powerful. By supporting your customers with workflows that actually they're able to, at the click of a button, continue their workloads in the way they always have done. We almost forget we're at home until the kids run in, of course. And security, again, we can't get away from it. We have to think about security because it's on the mindset of almost every IT manager out there. We're having to think about, well, how are people accessing these things? Are we still secure? Can my VPN live up to it? Are the firewall settings correct? Can everybody do what they need to do? Well, DocuWare is an audit-ready solution. We're able to actually work in the same way as we always have, resting assured that actually the security standards are being adhered to. Again, our partnership with Microsoft Azure allows us to promise this, and it means that regardless of where you are on the planet or what time of day it is, actually you're secure. So within just one tool, you're getting a multitude of different features. Of course, centralizing files, you've heard me mention that quite a few times already today. And I think that's really where the power sits for some companies, having the ability to be able to rest assured that everybody can access the information they need to continue working is a powerful message on its own. Suddenly, now because everything's electronic and we're starting to workflow this information, and actually we're starting to do things in an auditable way, as the managing director, you can now start to monitor performance. I can now understand, well, actually, yes, I know my staff are working, but where are the downfalls? Who's struggling? And this isn't about Big Brother watching. This is really, in some cases, about who doesn't understand, who hasn't had the need to work this way before, and who needs additional support and additional training to be able to ensure that our business can continue working. So putting the power not only in the manager's hands, but also in the employee's hands, actually means that we can continue in that boat. We continue rowing in the right direction to ensure that the business continues to achieve its goals. So what's the bottom line? Well, the bottom line is that we're maintaining maximum productivity. We're ensuring that although businesses' processes have changed, we're having to work from home, we're having to work remotely, the goals remain the same, and actually we can continue with our daily roles with no change. We're scalable. So it doesn't matter if actually maybe at one point, maybe one department made use of DocuWare. Suddenly, actually, we can support you through growing that to additional users and growing that throughout the business because we weren't ready for these times. No one knew that this was going to happen. And we're keeping the team rowing in the same direction. So again, we're keeping focused on that goal. We're making sure that we can reach our goal without any delay. Anyone who's not familiar with Nucleus, Nucleus did some research. They did a study on electronic content management and the return on investment. Because again, probably more often than not in today's world, we're talking about return on investment. Companies are becoming stringent. They are becoming answerable, and they're looking at, okay, before we spend our money, what return can we expect? What's going to happen? Well, of course, the content management is very important to that. And we can see from Nucleus's study that they said for every euro that is spent in an SMB customers market, actually they can expect a return on investment of 8.55 euros. So £8.50 in my money. That's a massive return on investment. Really, really is. And that's per person and per euro spent. So if we imagine the increased productivity, the cost savings of being able to process things quickly, but most importantly, because of the increase in productivity, we're able to redeploy our staff into roles that can focus on driving money into my business rather than driving money out. That's where our real power and our real return on investment is really found. And for anyone that wants any more kind of information on that, please feel free to contact your RSD. He can talk you through that. DocuWare, we've talked about security a little bit today, and DocuWare is accredited, and we hold ourselves to the highest possible standards. We work very hard to ensure that we meet our standards and we exceed them wherever possible. So, of course, we hold the ISO standards and all the other ones that you see on the screen there that people would expect in today's world. But, of course, we're constantly working to improve our standards and make things better wherever possible. And we're always keen to hear from everybody. So if anyone has ideas on how we can make things better, please do feed those back. They're not only about our standards and our certifications, they're also about how we improve as a business. And I'd like to think we're humble enough to be able to listen. So who uses DocuWare? Well, currently there's 14,000 people worldwide logging into DocuWare every single day. That happens across 90 countries of the world and through 600,000 people. So sorry, I got that wrong. 600,000 people through 14,000 businesses. Apologies for that. And for anyone that knows us kind of intimately, you'll know that actually DocuWare has a partner-first approach to the way we sell our product. So we're currently doing that through 650 partners worldwide. 650 trained, authorized DocuWare dealers in the world. Really, really powerful. And if anyone needs any support, you've got your regional sales directors sat behind you that can help you and support you through any challenging processes you need there. So DocuWare itself, I'm going to give a very brief overview of DocuWare today, and one that will only take a few moments. So something that for many of you, you may have seen before, but I think it's just an introduction to how we find documents, how we store documents, and also how we send them through for approval in many ways. And of course, coming away from the normal way of working in the office, quite important that we understand that we can continue these processes even without leaving my chair. So as we log into the system, we can see we've got our desktop apps that I mentioned earlier. Again, these are available for pretty much anything: phones, iPads, computers, laptops, so on and so forth. But the big power of DocuWare is that we're actually being able to use us directly through the web browser. That means I can use DocuWare no matter where I am on the planet and no matter what device I have to hand, even if it isn't my computer, provided I can get to the domain and I have my username and password, I can continue working as normal. So the first thing I'm going to do is just search for some documents. And if we go through, we can just use our search criteria here. Now, when we think of searching, searching is done in a slightly different way to the way the norm has been for many, many years. And I think it's fair to say that the way we've normally searched for things, actually we've gone to a filing cabinet, we've probably looked alphabetically, and we found what we need. But when we think about how that works, actually it's a little bit backwards, because I need to search for what I want, not necessarily where I want it to be. Where I want it isn't necessarily that important. And if I put that into some sort of example, if I was going to ask someone to go and find a document for me, so let's say the contract for DocuWare for 2019, for instance, if I was going to ask someone to fetch me that via where it is, I would probably be saying, can you go to the 4th filing cabinet along, 3rd drawer down, 15th section back, and 6th page in? That sounds a little weird, doesn't it? Sounds a little strange. However, I'm more likely to say, can you go and find me the contract for 2019 for DocuWare? People understand that. They'll probably still go to the same place, but it makes more sense if I tell them what I want rather than where I want it to be. So if I just type in a quick search there, and I'll just look for US Steel, I'm literally looking for the documents that relate to US Steel. I've not asked it where to look, I've not told it where to go and find anything, but straight away we can see that we've got an order that we placed with US Steel. We can see our document on our right-hand side here. Actually, we can see the delivery note from where US Steel delivered the product to us. We can see what it was signed for. Absolutely brilliant. But I've not asked to tell anything where to go and find any product at all, or any piece of paper at all. So if we go back and I just scan some additional documents in, I'm going to scan in some emails, some invoices that will allow us just to start to bring some documents into the system. And the process I'm going to go through here is the idea of stamping those documents, writing something on those documents, probably inputting those documents into some kind of spreadsheet or Sage system or something like that, and then physically taking those paper documents out around the business, ready for them to be signed off. And that's the process that we're going to go through today. So as we start to move through, I'm sure you'll be able to put that together into how you work in your business. So the process that's happening here is a process called OCR. Now, the process of essentially just takes those age-old PDFs and starts to open them up so that we can actually work with the data on the document. As we all know, a closed PDF, it's nothing more than a photo, really, is it? It's just a picture. So by being able to open them up, actually they become dynamic. And you'll notice that in the top left-hand corner of each document, we've now got a green or a yellow tab. Now, again, no prizes for guessing. That's the traffic light system. And also, we do have a red, as you would expect. So red essentially just dictates, we don't know what this is. There's a problem here. Can someone manually have a look at this document and make a decision on what we do with it next? Of course, the green, opposite end of the scale, these are the ones that DocuWare is comfortable. Yeah, okay, I understand these. I've got enough information to be able to process these without any sort of manual intervention. And in a live system, it's probably fair to say that you wouldn't see these green ones at this stage, because actually they would be automatically processed through the system, and they'll start to join their workflows and go through in the way that your business needs them to do. But for the purpose of today, I'll just show you what happens in the background. So on the right hand side, we can see our document, we can see the invoice that's coming in, we can zoom in, zoom out, we can obviously get all that information. And we'll see that on the left hand side, we've started to pull the metadata off the page and start to complete these index fields into the boxes that we've predefined. Now these are all customizable. So for everyone who's working with DocuWare, you have the opportunity to customize these fields to what's right for your business. They're completely customizable, but we'll go ahead and store that one away into the system there. The second one, you'll notice a very, very different type of invoice, but an invoice all the same. And again, we've stripped that information out and started to pre-populate the left-hand side. And the final one, again, US Steel, that's the company I searched for earlier. So we can see the invoice coming in, and we can see that it's pre-populated those fields. Now, finally, we're left with the yellow little tab on the left-hand corner. So if we go ahead and just store that one into the system, we'll again see the system, but because it was yellow, we know that actually maybe there's something that we have missing here. Maybe we're unsure of something at this stage. So we're just raising an exception to find that information out. And the reason that happens is that DocuWare lives on an artificial intelligence layer. So it allows for machine learning. So very important that actually maybe this is the first time we've ever seen this invoice or an invoice from this supplier come into our system. So what we're doing is we're checking, have we got everything correct? Because as we start to learn it, we need to make sure that we're learning correctly. So as we go through these metadata fields here, we'll be able to see that actually we've missed a little bit of information, one of which being quite important, the company name there. So of course we can go ahead and just type that in as we always would have done. And that's probably what many companies are doing today. However, for me, this opens up a couple of problems. problems or a couple of issues. Firstly, it's taking up my time. And as human beings, we're probably the most expensive part of any business. So it's important that actually, if we're going to be the most expensive part of the business, we should almost always be the most productive part of the business. But secondly, we're human and we make mistakes. That's part of life. So this opens up to human error if we start typing that in there. And thirdly, it may be as simple as actually, I'm probably not making an actual mistake, but maybe I've just missed the full stop off the end or something like that, just here. Now, from a DocuWare point of view, we don't mind. It doesn't matter that you've missed that full stop off. We're still going to find that information, no problem at all. However, when we start to integrate with other systems within your business, actually that full stop might be very, very important. If it goes into your finance system, for example, your finance system will often think it's a completely different entity because that full stop isn't there. So important that we're able to be exact and we're able to be accurate. So to help with this, all we do is we highlight the information that we require, and you'll start to see that pre-populate into the box. And that doesn't matter whether it's a word, potentially a date, no problem. It'll pre-populate that information. So we can go ahead and just store that one away. Excuse me. And as we were doing that, you'll notice that the little dot at the top here has been counting up. And you'll see as we go in, we'll start to see the documents that are being processed through. Now, of course, we have the opportunity to go through 2 and 3 part matching. So if you've got POs in the system where these payments have already been authorized, then actually we have the ability to start matching those POs and actually processing them through without any further manual intervention. However, for some businesses, they don't use POs, and I don't know if any of you don't, but maybe you're also in a situation that you do use POs, but actually sometimes humans cut corners and they don't necessarily always get POs before they place orders and purchases. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll just go through and start to add a cost center. So this could be people's names, but for the purpose of today, I'm going to use departments within the business. And there'll be certain people in those departments who are authorized to authorize that payment. So again, we'll pick on this one here, rapid transport. Again, we'll send that through to the manufacturing department because they're probably going to transport the steel that came in from US Steel. Storage, well, again, he's probably going to be storing his steel. So we'll go ahead and just give that to the manufacturing gentleman. Now, the final one, the phone bill, maybe a bad example, but the phone bill actually could go to a normal, everyday, miscellaneous code. But equally, it could be that more than one department is responsible for this particular invoice or this particular document. So we could go ahead and send that to more than one department to be authorized. And at this stage, you'll see our documents have all been sent out. So we've gone through that process and we've replicated that process of putting that stamp on the document, entering the information into some kind of spreadsheet or system manually, and then having to physically carry these pieces of paper around the business and drop them off at different areas to be authorized. However, the big and important part is I haven't left the desk. So the fact that I'm sat at home has had no impact on the business's ability to continue working. And these suppliers, they'll still be paid in the same way as if I was sat in the office. So what happens? When they've been sent around the office, if I just log into Brian Ford, who is our head of manufacturing, so he was the guy who I won't be top of his Christmas card list because I've just taken quite a lot of his budget there. But if we log into his system here, what you'll be able to see is that uniform look. So again, once you've had people trained, doesn't matter what area they work in the business, everything looks exactly the same. But that US Steel invoice, the one that I picked on earlier, you can see we've now added that stamp. So just because I haven't printed the document and put a stamp on it, doesn't mean we lose that audit trail. So electronically, we're able to add the stamp to the document. These again are completely customizable, so you can have whatever information you want within this stamp. And we'll probably replicate the stamps that you're currently using within your business. But I'm able to add that, so we've got the audit trail. Now, from a manufacturing point of view, I can see this is a huge invoice, just over £1 million. But okay, we knew it was coming, and that's fine. So we'll go ahead and just confirm for payment. Same with the storage experts one. You'll notice the stamp has found a different area of the document. Quite clever, and that's that essentially it will look for a blank part of the page. I'm sure we've all been in situations where you've been in manual accounts departments and they've stuck a stamp right over the bit that you need to read. Yeah, it's useful, handy. Thanks for that. But we'll go ahead and we'll just confirm that one through the payment as well. And we finally got the phone wizard one here. So again, we can see the stamp that's gone on the document, but you'll remember that I assigned this to two departments, both sales and manufacturing. So at this stage, as the manufacturing department, I might say, well, actually, I'm only responsible for £300 of that particular bill and not the whole 857.09. So we'll go ahead and confirm that through, but I'm only going to confirm the £300 that I'm expected to pay. So just to close up that little circle there, I'm just going to log in to our sales department, and Fred Winner is our head of sales for this particular scenario. So as we come into the system, you can see the phone wizard invoice. So this is the one that again we've just been looking at in the manufacturing department. We can see our main stamp being added to the document. We can see that a stamp has been added to take away that first £300. And probably most cleverly, you'll see that the numbers have automatically started to be updated, so that as they're starting to be assigned into the finance department, actually we've already got the breakdown for the different departments. So we can go ahead and just confirm that one through. And the last one that I want to bring to your attention is that really large invoice from US Steel. So the US Steel invoice, you'll remember, was just over £1 million. And at no point did I ask that invoice to go through to our finance director. However, I'm sure most companies would agree that if you've got an invoice of a really large amount, not necessarily £1 million, but certainly a large amount, then actually we're going to want more than one person's authorization before it's processed. So again, as I come into this document, I can see I've got our main stamp at the top there as it came in. I've also got our stamp from our manufacturing team to say he understood and he authorized it. But now actually as the finance director, I could say, well, no, I'm not going to authorize this, and it might be that no PO, hold payment. And all these notes will then appear in the stamp that we're then going to add to the document. So quite clever, and completes that audit trail. So we'll go ahead and just confirm that. So we're going to reject that particular document. Now at this stage, if I go back to the beginning, I'm just going to search for that information, because you'll remember at the beginning when we looked and we searched for information on US Steel, actually we had an order that was going out. We received that, and we'd also received a POD, or a delivery note, where the information had come back into the system. So at this stage, if I just run the same search again, we'll get nothing. Here we go. We'll now run the same search again, and we can see that yes, we've now got our order that we had at the beginning. We've got our delivery note that we had at the beginning, but also we now have our invoice that we've just processed through the system. And you'll see the main stamp that appeared on the document as it came in through our accounts department. You'll see where it was authorized by our head of department for the payment, but then right at the bottom, we can see the final stamp from where our finance director has rejected this particular payment, and you'll see the no PO hold payment note that I wrote into that stamp. You'll see it's now appeared on the document. So again, building that full audit trail as to exactly how we're going to deal with these documents. So that's just a brief introduction to DocuWare, how we're starting to send through documents remotely without actually being in the office or being next to each other, and how we're able to search for that information. And that will link in nicely to the demo that you're going to get next week from my colleague Richard. Please look out for his webinar and register for that. That'll give you an in-depth information as to how you can take that one step further. So looking at where we are where we are. We've seen all this information coming through the system. We've seen how it's been authorized. We've seen how it's been registered. And we've seen how we can then search and find that information again. Guys, thank you very much for your time today. It's been wonderful to be able to speak to you. Over to you now, guys, really for questions. I appreciate that I can't actually hear you, unfortunately. But if you could note any questions down into the chat area of the webinar, I'll be happy to answer anything for you right now. Okay, yeah, so permissions. Yeah, so you're absolutely right. We manage permissions in the way that you would expect. So same way as you do with your Active Directory system. So people work generally on roles. And although you can set permissions onto people themselves, for most businesses, they'll be set onto their role. So if you hold a particular role within the business, then you'll have the right to be able to see an action different things within the workflows and so on and so forth. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Okay, guys, that's the only question I can see. So thank you very much for your time today. It was wonderful to be able to speak to you. Hopefully everyone's not going to stir crazy, but please stay fit and well, and hopefully I'll get the chance to speak to you again soon. Take care now. Bye bye.